So, hi, my name is Ariel, and together with Laura and Mason, we are presenting Nutrition and the Young Child. So I get to start talking about infants and toddlers. Infants and toddlers would typically include newborn to age 3, but I'm focusing on newborn to age 2 as we talk about nutrition, because by age 3, they are considered preschool age in regards to following government nutrition guidelines. So this is a unique time where parents and caretakers are 100% responsible for the feeding of their child. So this age group will be a little different compared to the others later on discussed, because children at this age cannot gather food by themselves. They can't go to the kitchen to get snacks. They can't, they're really relying on their parents to feed them and to supervise them as they're learning how to eat at this time. So this is a critical time. Nutrition is vital for healthy growth and development. And it's really setting the foundation for their growth. And when we consider that well-nourished infants grow rapidly, babies will typically double their birth weight by about 5 months. And by age 1, they will typically triple their birth weight. And after that, they grow about 3 inches and gain 4.5 pounds annually. So when we think about how much they're growing, we understand that, the nutrition really is so important. All over the world, there's the saying, breast is best, because, nutrition at the start of life really starts with milk, and breastfeeding is ideal for that nutrition. And ideally, the nutrition will start with colostrum, which is the thick, high-calorie substance secreted by a mother's breasts at birth. And it helps the newborn's digestive and immune systems. And it comes before the milk, and then after birth, 2 to 3 days after the birth, the breast milk will come in. And that, again, is so important. Compared to cow's milk, it is more sterile, more digestible, and rich in nutrients. And it contains antibodies from mother that protect against many childhood diseases and sicknesses. Among other benefits of breastfed children include, there's allergies and asthma are less commonly found. There's better childhood vision. And later on in adulthood, obesity, diabetes, and heart disease rates are lower. So again, that's that foundation. If they are able to receive that, it's really going to get them started on the right nutrition path. And mothers, so sometimes mothers are unable to breastfeed. And when that is the case, there are formula milks available. But either way, milk is the essential nutrient resource for babies. And it is recommended by doctors worldwide to exclusively breastfeed for the first few months of life. Now, as the child reaches 6 months, they start to introduce baby to foods, and but this doesn't take away from the need for either breast milk or formula milk. So we call it, in the 6 to 12 month range, the foods that they're eating are really complementary foods, meaning that they're just, complementing with a few nutrients, that because the milk is their essential nutrient giving resource. And then during this time, the baby, between the first and second year, baby will develop the skills needed to participate in meals with the family. And by age 2, they should be able to eat most of the same foods that the rest of the family. So again, this age group is unique in the way that they're really just starting to get introduced to foods, which is always done with parental supervision. And they're able to try a lot of variety of foods. I think by 7 to 8 months, it is 7 to 8 months that, baby can eat a variety of foods. And you're also watching out to see if there are any allergies or, harmful side effects that come with the foods that they're eating. So this is, again, the infant toddler stage is really the foundation for their nutrition. And because of that, the public health issues really come down to low income families. If the mother is unable to attain her own nutrients, she might have trouble producing breast milk, or, in situations where she's unable to do that, they may need formula, and that can be hard for some people to get. And so the solutions for that really, there are some in place already, government and local food programs like WIC or food stamps and local services, which help provide the nutrient necessities to ensure that the infant and toddler is receiving their critical nutrients. All right.
Well, I'm Laura, and I'm going to be talking about preschoolers. So preschoolers are children from age 4 to 5, and at this age they're developing their eating habits, and they still need encouragement to eat and to form healthy habits. So some public health issues and possible solutions. Childhood obesity is one of the most serious public health challenges of the 21st century. Low-income families are the most likely to have malnutrition and obesity. And this is because less exercise and more television and fewer vegetables, and also more fast food, are more common in low-income families and in families where the parents are not educated. Another reason for obesity is older adults encourage children to eat. Some older adults grew up in a time when there was famine and drought, and so it was common to protect one's family against that by encouraging people to eat. And so often older adults still kind of have that mindset today and encourage children the same way. And parents urge children to eat. And so parents often will force children to eat all of their food and to finish their plate. And sometimes that can lead to overeating, which causes obesity. The second public health issue is nutritional deficiency. This is also more common in low-income families and families that don't have enough money to buy the foods that have the nutrients they need. So often kids are getting the calories they need, but they're not getting the nutrients that they need. So they're getting lots of sugars and carbs. So a big problem with nutritional deficiency is children get too much sugar. So in our society, people entice children to eat sweets, whether that's like holidays or like ice cream trucks. And another reason for nutritional deficiency is food allergies, and food allergies make it hard for people to have a variety of meals. So some other solutions for these issues, one is to have a variety of healthy meals, and two is nutrition education for children and families. There's programs, whether that be like through the school or the government, that help children to have healthy meals at school. And there's also programs like WIC that help parents to get, I believe it's for mothers and children, to get the nutrients that they need. Ways to foster healthy eating habits. So there's many ways, but I made a list of some here. One is to schedule regular meal and snack times. This limits unplanned eating and helps children to be hungry when it's time to eat. Two, don't allow children to play at the dinner table. Playing with the food at the table takes away from the focus on eating and creates bad habits and greater possibility for choking. And that's also kind of the same for watching TV. It puts the children's focus on the TV rather than what they're eating. Next, try not to use food to punish or reward your child. Children may worry that they won't get food when you punish them, and so they'll eat whenever they can. And then using sweets as a reward makes children think that those foods are better than others. Pressure your child to eat or force them to eat everything. This can, like I mentioned before, this can lead to overeating. Offer a variety of foods. Have the attitude that sooner or later your child will learn to eat most all foods. And when they eat a variety of foods, they'll get better nutrients and the nutrients that they need for their bodies. Encourage your children to drink more water. Drinking water is better rather than drinking like sugar or sweetened drinks, and help them to stay hydrated. Involve children in the selection and preparation of foods. Children will feel accomplished and more likely to eat when they help prepare the food. Eat meals together as a family as often as possible. This helps families to bond and helps children to form healthier habits as they eat with their family. And most of all, be a good example. It's really important for parents to show to their children an example of eating and having healthy habits, and that way they can follow those habits and be healthy as well. So the parent and educators are involved in child nutrition. They're involved in all of those healthy habits that we just talked about. A parent or an educator can help to plan the meals or plan the nutrients that the children are getting. It's important for parents as well as educators to educate themselves about proper nutrition, because if they don't know how to properly feed a child, then their child won't get the nutrition that they need. And so it's important for them to learn about it themselves so that they can be healthy, and then also they can be an example for their children. And by being an example, children mimic adult behavior, and so they'll try to follow their example and eat as they eat. And then help children to be involved in their nutrition. So it's important for parents to be involved, and most likely parents will be involved in planning meals and feeding their children. But it's also important to make sure that we're helping the children to be involved, because that helps them to have a better nutrition.
Thanks, Ariel. Thanks, Laura. You guys did an awesome job. So you set the bar high for me. So I did, let me get into this. I had the middle childhood, or what's also known as school-age children, and then adolescents. Your middle childhood is between the ages of 6 through 11. Those are about numbers. What's interesting about middle childhood, in the book it mentions that it just says, unlike infants or adolescents, school-age children grow slowly and steadily in body and brain. So compared to the first couple age groups, this is one of the first stages where it actually starts to kind of slow down. Doesn't mean you're quite done, but there's kind of a gap where we're not going as rapidly as possible. Now, because of that, you have a couple things going on. You've got like your brain maturation. So these kids are a little bit more educated as well. But as well, they still need advice. They're still children under the age of 11, so they still need some type of guidance. And they're not quite to the stage of adolescence where they go from like an 11-year-old body up to a teenager's body. There's a big significance where it rapidly increases there. So you're kind of in this middle ground where things really start to slow down, which is kind of interesting for middle childhood. As for adolescence, those are your about 10 to 19-year-olds. That's when your puberty starts to begin. So you're going to have that rapid growth. It mentions in the book, it says, as the growth spurt begins, children eat more and gain weight. Exactly when and where and how much weight they gain depends on hereditary, hormones, diet, exercise, and whether they are boys or girls. So there's a wide range of nutritional information that goes into different adolescents. So some of it's genetic, some of it's just going to be depending on your status, culture, that type of thing as well. Sorry, my thing's really sensitive. So some of your public health issues and solutions. I'll start with, again, the middle childhood. So with middle childhood, like I mentioned before, because there's not as much rapid growth, you're not going to see a wide range of growth in this time. So it's not like you're going to have big mounds of food. Oftentimes kids in this time are going to want just lots of snacks throughout the day compared to that large, maybe three different meals during the day. Small snacks, just because their tummies aren't big, so they can't really indulge in a huge meal, but a nice snack gets them by for the time being. And then if you take in like naps, school, and different things, you've got your timing as well. I like this picture. You've got one kid snacking on some popcorn. You got one kid who's snacking on what's called takoyaki. I totally botched that, but it's an octopus dumpling. And I got this actually from the book, but it just kind of talks about like the different cultures. So some of the problems that you're dealing with this age group is, in some cultures, a nice snack could be some popcorn, and that's not a very healthy snack compared to something like an octopus dumpling, maybe with something with more nutritional value. And so you just have to be careful in this stage of what type of snacks are you introducing, and a lot of that we'll get into it a little bit later as we talk about other solutions, but about what type of snacks, your culture does play a big part into that. As for adolescents, you're looking at a lot of body image issues. That was one thing the book mentioned a lot. You can see from this graph, both boys and girls do have problems with body dissatisfaction. It's a little more common in girls, and there was a huge difference between girls that are age like 13, and then 2 years later, it's a significant rise, and then it kind of tapers off. And so in this time, it's just very careful to maintain. I mean, you just got a big problem with people that consider themselves obese that might not be. This doesn't actually reflect what they are, but it's just their dissatisfaction. And so that's a real big problem that adolescents are going through. Just thinking about what their body image and how they feel, basically. It does mention in here, it says few adolescents are happy with their bodies, partly because almost none of them have bodies like those portrayed on online and other media that are marketed to teenagers. So they go throughout their day and they just don't see what they look like. They just see, themselves in the mirror, maybe a little bit overweight, or maybe not to the standard of what they want to be. Also, with a little bit younger, they're not as mature, so they might not realize that, it's okay to be, a little thick or a little thin or something like that. It's their mind hasn't made up the fact that, you know, it's okay if you have, you know, a bigger hip than somebody else. So going into fostering healthy eating habits. So this is a lot of where the solutions are as well. So I kind of wanted to kind of bring those two together with your middle children and adolescents. Kind of like what I mentioned with kids, they're going to snack throughout the day. So you want to avoid things like sugars, candies, sodas, cereals, anything that's got, you know, high sugars. And then as well your fats. You want to get rid of any of those fried food. A lot of processed food is really bad for you. I think we all understand this. Those are the things that you want to avoid or at least limit. I'm not going to go and say that I don't indulge in a nice Snickers bar every now and then, but you know, it's not going to be my main meal every day. And then looking at things to eat, obviously fruits, vegetables, grains, dairy, protein. Those are the things that you know want to indulge in. It's important to just maintain a healthy eating habits. I think both Ariel and Laura both kind of talked about that as well. As far as eating habits, like we've all had that class where we know what we're supposed to eat. And so, yeah, as important as this is, I think we all just know this one. So I don't want to take too much time on it. As for parent and educator involvement in child health and nutrition, with your middle childhood, you're seeing a lot of, well, I'm just going to read this from the book. It says attempts to limit sugar and fat clash with the goals of many corporations. Since snacks, processed foods are very profitable. On the plus side, many schools now have policies that foster good nutrition. Overall, simply offering healthy food is not enough to convince children to change their diet. Context and culture are crucial. So while you can maintain a really healthy eating habit, it's important to not only just worry about the nutrition, but your child's health as well. So you want to fight for ways to get, you know, more parks, pools, bike paths, those types of things in your neighborhood. Those are things that parents can do, educators can do to help children, basically, getting them more involved with having active children and children that are eating healthy. As for adolescents, this is a tough time for adolescents as well. I think we've all been there where it's just sometimes like we just don't listen to authority during those times. So it's not the easiest to just tell somebody this is what you have to eat. And one thing in the book that just talked about like kind of mitigating what you can do with adolescents is rather than just trying to zero in on something that like nutrition, like if you just harp on something like nutrition for an adolescent, that might not be as impactful compared to being a little bit more dynamic. So if you went, talked about, you know, being healthy, but also talking about riding a bike, over time, that can start to take effect. And I think it all starts with, I mean, both Ariel and Laura kind of mentioned it before. If you can maintain those healthy eating habits early, it only helps you into my presentation. And so they, I think if you can just keep that information and use it for, you know, your babies and toddlers and growing up to childhood and adolescence, it's only going to help down the road right here in your adolescence. So anyway, that is my portion of the slide. All right. And so I just want to say we had a really fun time preparing this, a little nerve-wracking, but we hope that you guys enjoy this. And if you guys have any questions, we're excited to read any comments, anything that we can improve on, or even just things that people have questions about. I feel like just from the last couple of days, I'm a professional with childhood age and nutrition and adolescence. So I'm happy to answer any questions. And I believe Ariel and Laura are the same. So thanks, guys.